Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So this is the BCTD. How do you read this? BCTD101LTBK. So pretty much the identical to its cousin on the wall or brother, except the headstock shape is a little bit different on this, and I call the LT in the title "Lousy Tuners" because this thing has horrible tuners. These are the tuners you see on a guitar that you run from. Unless, of course, you really like the guitar and it plays well, because even Epiphone has some beautiful, cheap guitars, but they have these crummy tuners, and it's not that hard. Get yourself a 10 millimeter, or actually, you're going to need a tapered reamer plus a 10 mil, and just bore the holes right out to 10 mil, slam on some really good tuners, and away you go, rock and roll with some good stuff. Now, as long as you're tuning up to pitch, these things are seeming to hold not bad, considering we also got fresh brand new strings on here, which are still stretching in. However, the E is really tight on this one, and it's kind of scary, and it's like, I thought I was in tune. Apparently, I need to go up an octave. All right, let's keep going. And it's like, oh, that's getting really stiff. That is the weird thing about these tuners, and some of them will run loose. And when you back them off, man, there's a lot of slop in this style of tuner. Now, let's not discourage you about the guitar. I mean, overall, the guitar is actually really great, but they just happen to put really bad tuners on this thing. Now, as far as a close-up goes, this is not what I would consider pure black, but we'll show you that in a second. My other one here is more pure black. So here's the difference between them for headstocks. So this is new school and already comes from the factory with great tuners for cheapies. Okay, and this, of course, and very bad tuners. Now looking at the guitars side by side, it is near impossible to tell them apart, other than, one's got a bit lighter fretboard, one's got a little darker. But otherwise, yeah, they look the same. And they sound very similar. We'll have a sound off of these things on a later video. But because they both have the exact same strings too, and both guitars have brand spanking new strings. So that keeps everything fair and even that way. So yeah, and they still have the same kind of binding. But if you really look, hopefully this angle kicks in right. You can see the brown tinge, and then the outer border is more black than anything. So there's a bit of a tinge there, and the back exhibits the same sort of thing, which is actually pretty nice because it almost looks like barnwood color. Actually, very similar to my Les Paul that I used to have. But yeah, and it is not a two-piece split back, by the way. That's a fake strip. But it's definitely got a couple scratches and scuffs on it. Which does depreciate its price. Now, I do have to make a correction in my my thought pattern here, is because the guitar that I bought from the pawn shop the other day, the Beaver Creek, I thought was actually this one, because I never did take that close of a look at the headstock on this one. But how many left-handed Beaver Creeks that look like this are popping up, right? Apparently more than what we thought, and I'm done buying them. But nothing against Beaver Creek. I've got two of these. I don't need more. But anyway, so it turns out that guitar was not the one that belonged to the girl on Marketplace, because this thing had vanished, right? And it's like, oh, it's gone. That sucks, right? I was going to try and get it, right? But I thought that is the one that I got. So turns out. And price-wise, pawn shop sold me that for $119 tax in. Where this thing, the girl was actually asking $85, so I was wrong about the price too. So that's my bad. It's on me. But she emailed me last night, and she says, hey, I still got that guitar if you're still interested, because the other person backed out. I don't know why they backed out. It only had one broken string on it. It does have a couple little scuffs here and there, which, it's a used guitar, for crying out loud. It even has a nice little war wound sitting right in here, which is nothing that affects anything. If you're really that anal about it, just rub some glue in there, let it dry clear, and voila, the wood will never splinter. My only concern was actually right here and this is like a little piece of wood showing, and I think that's because the finish chipped. And I think that's all this is just a little bit of a finish chip, because nothing along the sides on either side, it's not pulling, right? So I'm thinking, just for aesthetic purposes, I'll take a little black marker, I'll color that in, let it sit, and then I'll just run a little bead of glue around here just to, make sure it'll never, ever, ever have a chance to pull apart, if that's where we're at. But I'm pretty darn sure that we don't have a problem here at all. I'm pretty good when it comes to guitars of knowing my stuff, and I don't think that's an issue. But anyways, that was a little concern for me. So I asked her, because we agreed on $50, and we're meeting up in North Bay, and I said, well, I know we agreed on 50, but like I said, it does need a set of strings, but which is not a biggie, but this might be something I'm kind of thinking. She says, yeah, I'll take 40. She says, I just honestly want it gone. I don't need it. I don't play it, and I'm like, okay, $40 it is. Here you go. And yeah, I take the strings off and the nut falls right off. And I'm like, oh, okay, something else to fix. So glue that back on too while we're at it. But not a big deal. I mean, nuts are fine. If a nut pops on you, don't worry about it. Just take a couple of drops of crazy glue and slam it back on there and make sure you hold it perfectly even, and flush on each end. Let it sit for about 10 minutes and then string her up by the two middle ones first. Always the two middle ones. Because if you go on the ends, yeah, you can just pop her off again. Anyways, so I am going to upgrade the tuners, right? They do need an upgrade. These are crummy. When they're tuned up to pitch, they seem to hold. That's when you want to back down because you tuned up too high. It's just like so much slop. So you better make sure you tune up to pitch or you're going to have a really big problem. But they do need to be replaced, that's for sure. They are crummy. So I don't know what this model sold for new because I can't even find anything on it. It's definitely an older model. And I'm suspecting that Beaver Creek, being a Canadian company, once they discontinue something, all the information is gone. But I can't even find anything on YouTube on this one because the model number is just a little slight bit different from mine. So we only have videos from me on the other one and one other guy that did 2 videos. And it's like, okay, so not a popular brand yet, I guess. But you know what? I'll take one of these over the Denvers any day of the week. Nothing against Denver, but they are starting to raise their prices a little bit above their britches where they should be. These are like $200, brand spanking new. And I think that's pretty fair if you have the newer model, which has the good tuners on it. Sorry. This one here, we're going to have to modify, and I have all the tools for that. But if you need to ever change these crummy tuners out yourself, then you're going to need a tapered reamer, and you're going to need a 10mm reamer to make sure that hole is perfectly concentric. And then you can slam on some new tuners, and away you go. I think I have a video or 2 on my channel about upgrading tuners on an Epiphone SG that was like I had to bore them out. So I do have a how-to video there someplace. So anyway, let's get to playing this thing. And I am impressed though, not one bad fret anywhere. They're all perfect. And I'm like, sweet, because I had to fix one fret on that one. Anyway, let's have some fun. So you know what? Best 40 bucks I've ever spent. Anyway, I don't know if you're going to get away with that cheap of a price from anybody. However, this one actually came with a gig bag too. And when you do buy them brand new, they do come with a gig bag. I'm not sure if it's this one that says guitars on it. Because, yeah, we don't get to see that on Long McQuaid's website for some reason. But, gig bag included. Yeah, this is kind of like a purpley mauve. Not quite pink, thank goodness. Not a real fan of pink, although I was going to buy a pink guitar, but somebody else bought it instead. That was 50 bucks at the pawn shop. That was an Oscar Schmidt. So I didn't have to adjust the action at this at all. No adjustments to the truss rod. The thing is great and no problems with it. So that's pretty respectable for a cheapie. A little bit of rough edges, just a little tiny bit. It's nothing that you need to be concerned about. And if you're really that concerned, get some 2000 grit sandpaper and just go along the edges this way on a bit of an angle so you don't mess with the finish at all. And you can easily clean those up like 2 seconds. But yeah, definitely upgrade the tuners though, because these tuners are horrible. But yeah, finger pick's not too bad either. It's pretty decent. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna put this one against that one too, because I don't really think we're gonna hear that much of a difference, but we might hear some difference because they are technically different. There's a bit more meat on this headstock and, everything else. But also the finishes are slightly different too. And the amount of finish that does go onto a guitar, like even like paint and like painted a solid painted color and then put your top coat for clear, that does affect the tone too, even on a laminated guitar. So kind of curious to see how this one goes. But beautiful guitar. So overall, it was in great shape. The frets don't even have any damage whatsoever. The girl told me she got it as a gift, and she tried it once, and that was it. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this puppy. Not much difference, but a little bit. But I say the LT in the title means lousy tuners. That's how I would call that one out. Otherwise, a little bit lighter top kind of thing, Anyhow, guess that's it. So stay tuned for more videos and more versus videos too, because we're still not done from the last round. And now I got this one to play around with. But we're not going to go nuts with this one, with all the other guitars. We will put this, though, up against its counterpart there, and maybe one or two other guitars. And like I said, at least it's going to be fair between this one and the other one, because they both have the exact same strings. And the only difference, seemingly, is headstock, obviously shape. Probably a little, yeah, actually the headstock on that's much thinner, too, than this one. This is more meatier. So the headstock thickness is different. The necks feel about the same, though. They really do feel about the same. I guess we'll have to see how that one goes, so stay tuned. We're going to have some more fun. See ya.